I want to help people get their voices out there. I don't care how many podcasts there are in the world. There's 2.4 million podcasts in the world. Why not more?
Welcome to Season 2 of the TheKnifeWife podcast. I'm Suz, here with my husband,
Bob Terzuola.
We're professional creatives and entrepreneurs who live, love, and work together. We share our stories to find ourselves in others. P.S. This podcast has little to do with knives. Hey, everybody. It's Suz here, the Knife Wife, and I'm here with my cohort, partner in crime.
That's me, Bob.
Bob Terzuola. And Happy New Year to everybody. This is the first time we've been in the studio since the first of the year because we record things a little bit ahead of time. Now we're right on the wire, though, because of our lives. It's been a crazy start to the new year. Right, Bob? Eventful, yes. And I'm speaking to you with a nano knee. I don't know if I sound any different, but I had the surgery. It's all is good. I've had a lot of people contact me and reach out, and I appreciate all that. But now, I'm back to my fighting stance. 2 weeks after I had the surgery, I did my first 10-minute set at a comedy show, and it went surprisingly well. I thought I would bomb.
It did. It did. She was the funniest one of all the crew there.
I do, and now I have fans who contact me through Instagram, which I never had a fan in my life except one you cool off with. That was pretty amazing. But anyway, so I have another show. I think it's February 18th is my next show, and then I booked as per my Honest Fox Media people. They asked me to book a place to tape my special. So that's December 4th here at the Film Hub, and I'll let you guys know more about it. Putting together a camera crew and sound and lights and all that stuff. But hopefully I got a lot of work to do between now and December 4th, I'll tell you, because I got about 20 minutes now, and another 20 or 30 is a lot to do. But I love every minute of it. What can I say? So we're here because I wanted a break from toxic media because I can't stand it. And now that we'll have a change of the guard, there's going to be even more of it. It's just never ending. And TikTok, I'm not really worried about the dance anymore because it looks like TikTok might be going away. We'll see. Or somebody will buy it, I'm sure. And I'm still a sexagenarian. I got one more year half a year of being 69, which, as I say in my routine, I thought would be more fun when I was younger. Not so much. And what else? We don't use Wikipedia here because I married Wikipedia, right,
That's
Bobby?
me.
Yep, I got Fun Bobby here, and everybody knows him now. He was outed as Fun Bobby in my show, and so everybody says to me now, "How's Fun Bobby?" And I just love that. I just absolutely love calling him that.
Being compelled to smile every time she says that.
But I noticed, honey, you're saying a lot more funny things lately. Is that because of what I've been doing?
No, I've been funny all along. You just never recognized me.
I did too. But, now you're telling me we're driving down the street. No, you should put that in your act. Or you should say that. And I must say I've had at least 25 people tell me comedy routines I should do. And they sound like their comedy routines, not my comedy routine. Anyway, today we have somebody who is near and dear to our hearts. And I'm looking at him. He's in the studio with us. He is sort of my producer and director, and my director's here sitting at the board. But he does it all.
And
He's
kind of a podcast mentor.
He is a podcast mentor. And so when I first was looking for a place to do our podcasts, I looked all over San Diego. I went and visited these what they called studios. I call them garages. And the other one that was good was way down in like Chula Vista or something. It was very far away. But anyway, so then when I came here, I met this guy named Zeke. Now, I expected when I heard his name was Zeke, I had no idea what he looked like or anything. I pictured the last Zeke I knew was a good old boy from a farm wearing overalls. And I got to tell you, I came in here, I'm like, well, this is not that Zeke. I said to him, you got a voice not just for radio, you got a voice for TV, man. You should use that face. So I hope I didn't embarrass him. But he's good, he's kind, he's done so many things to help me along that I can't thank him enough. Anyway, so without further ado, Zeke Corley.
Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Zeke.
He's a podcaster, and he runs Different Day Radio. And he's, I don't know, pretty sharp. Anyway, so my first question for you is, how did you get here? I mean, what's your story? Because I know you've had a couple jobs maybe before this one, right?
Oh, well, I think I've done them all. I mean, I don't know. I'd be second to you. I've heard you talk about the numerous things that you've done around this world, and
yes, I'm a serial. I like to get to master something, and then I go on.
I love it. I love it. I'm trying to catch you. I'm working on it. I've had a hard time saying no since COVID. I kind of have promised myself. What's funny? The funny story about that is that when the pandemic happened, you saw a lot of people losing their jobs and stuff, and I started to realize how fragile a lot of this stuff was, and so I just decided I wasn't going to say no. Now I'm still having a hard time, so I got to work my way into some no's because I'm not getting a lot of sleep around here.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that, and thank you guys for having me. It started in radio, so it's funny that you mentioned it.
And I was in radio too. I did drop-ins for B96 and US 99 in Chicago. I used to go in the middle of the night and do these crazy characters, which I won't subject you to.
That sounds fun. I might have to pull one of those out of
I got Reverend Billy Bob Dollar, man. He's a TV preacher. I don't know how I can turn him into Susie Bob Dollar or something, but I got Bob Dollar across the way from me. But anyway, so I know a lot about radio. I can't wait to hear about it. Where did you start in radio?
I love it. I was at 90.5 FM, KSJS, San Jose. It was, 1991, when I graduated high school.
1900s.
When I graduated high school. So I was 16 years old and just happened upon, just visiting the studio and realized that I was starting to really like what they were doing, broadcasting. It was late night at 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And, they would just throw me in there because, who else is going to do it? Who else has that time? Right. And so I was all into it. And
what kind of
really
station was it?
The opportunity. It was a college station, so it gave us the opportunity to use, it was at San Jose State University, it gave us the opportunity to play all kinds of different music. Now, of course, after midnight with the FCC, we got to play some cuss words and stuff too. And so my programming had more to do with the music that my dad was playing and the music that rappers were sampling. And
I sense that music is Motown.
A lot of that, right? A lot of the soul and the jazz of the 50s, 60s, 70s. And so I learned all of that stuff just by, grabbing my dad's wax and playing that. And then here I am listening to new rap that's coming out and seeing the similarity. So I would play these songs back to back, and it was kind of an education to the audience, right?
Idea. Yeah.
So, but with that, I also got into interviewing. And then, one of the things that also happens when you're in radio is they ask you to host shows. And so they'll have concerts or something. I've seen more concerts than I'd ever need. If I never saw another music act, I'd be fine.
When I worked at the radio station, we got free tickets all the time. I did get to meet Sting.
Awesome.
Which was a pretty big deal. He kissed my hand, and I did not wash that hand, and I was no kid. I did not wash that hand for a week. I just kept kissing where Sting had kissed me.
I was wondering why it was so dirty.
That's why I had to get the tattoo on it to cover it up. Anyway, so I went to I relate to that, a lot of shows.
Yeah, good times. Got to see a lot of how folks did their promotions as well, right? I have one Diddy story, but it wasn't at a party. Let's say.
Oh boy, that Diddy file's going to come out, isn't it? Oh boy.
Mine was really learning what he created. He was part of what created what we call the street team, which is that you just have people out there, passing out flyers and doing all this. But we were in Miami at this event called How Can I Be Down? This is where all of the various music acts, record labels, everybody's all in the same place, all the executives. And people are out there just really trying to party, trying to find out, who they need to meet. There's a lot of business getting done. And who's this disruption walking down the street with a bullhorn? It's Diddy. And he's yelling, party tonight. This is where the party is. And he's got about 10 to 12 scantily clad women in camouflage booty shorts
pays
and
to
bras.
Advertise. There we go.
And just following him and passing out CDs and flyers, following him with this bullhorn as he's advertising. And the CDs and tapes that he was passing out, one of them was Biggie Smalls before when his debut album and single and stuff. So that was the street team, and that was what we call just real legitimate street promotion. Getting right to the core. So learned a lot there as well. But radio was fun, and radio got me traveling and got me listening to a lot of music and seeing a lot of acts in person, interviewing some greats as well. So it was really, really good times.
In between records and songs that you would play on the radio, you'd give commentary, you'd give little talks.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you do research on those things, or did it come off the top of your head? How did you know what to say?
Research. In fact, what's interesting, a lot of folks nowadays don't know about music because you're getting it all digitally, is there were liner notes, right?
Yeah.
There's all kind of information and biographies even inside the records, And so you get this information. Then, of course, we'd also have the guests in studio and get to talk to them because they're trying to promote something anyway. So they'd pull up in a van and hit maybe 8 radio stations all in one night. And we would just be one of them and happy to have them and, get to talk to some really cool
This
people.
was AM radio or FM?
No, FM.
FM,
Yep.
okay.
And when that was in the early 90s, there was so much white powder that it looked like somebody was baking cakes. I mean, it was crazy, and that was not my thing. It was everybody else's. And it was pretty wild. It
Sure.
was, one time we were at a restaurant called The Palm in Chicago. They're all over the place. And these guys were all coked up, and all these executive, the radio and music executives, they were all coked up. And I was hungry. So I ordered, and they ordered like a seafood tower, and they ordered these lobster tails and whatever. And there was a guy who answered the phone. He'd say, "Hello, Pam." That's how he talked. He was so funny. And so no one ate that food. I did. I ate they said, "Well, you're hungry." I said, because I'm not doing that marching powder.
Right.
And I'm like, all that food went to waste. I just wanted to, can I have a doggy bag the size of a suitcase? But anyway, so that's what I think. When I think 90s radio, I think a lot of wild, wild times.
Sure, there were a lot of great stories, a lot of crazy stories, a lot of stuff that would happen, in and around the studio. But I will proudly say I never took payola. And
Good.
never succumbed to threats either, because there were both of those,
Yeah.
play my music or else.
Yeah.
But I just played what I liked, and I, had some integrity there when it came to it. Who wants to put on some record that you
Ever
didn't care
meet
about?
Jack Kelly?
No.
He was a program director out of Chicago. He had the voice of God. Like Jack could read the phone book, and it would sound so good.
Wonderful.
But anyway, so you're in the 90s. You're living the life. I mean, because
It
were you
was
old
good
enough to
times.
get in these clubs
It
and
was
stuff?
good times. And one thing, eventually. But one of the things, and you didn't have to be old enough, was doing the party. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
all right.
It's
That's
like
true.
I'm the host. You know. So we've had some great shows and seen some crazy stories. Almost fell in the pier one time on a stage that we built.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, in San Francisco. That was a crazy time. But they were dancing so hard because the music was so amazing.
Yeah.
The DJ wouldn't let me stop the music. I'm trying to stop the music, but to him, this is just epic, right?
Yeah,
So he's pushing me away while I'm trying to stop the music. We wound up having to pull people on the stage. The girls are getting squashed up against the stage. The whole thing is bouncing. It was crazy. That's Fugees, Biz Markie, White Clef, all of that. Like Alcoholics was one of the groups. Great stuff. But
Well, at least they were straightforward.
yeah. Plenty of stories there, but here we are this many years later. I've always loved the microphone. Wish I could get back to the microphone. I know I'm a little congested today, but I like talking to people. I like having these kind of conversations. And, this fabulous film hub gets built, and I'm just selling insurance, doing my thing, but this podcast studio just kept calling me. And I'm like, I really want to use the mic. Why don't we create a show?
And what's the name of you have a podcast. What's the name of it?
Same Business, Different Day is the name of the show.
Which is so confusing to a new Different Day radio for those writing checks. But anyway, okay. And tell us about that podcast a little bit, how that came about.
That podcast is about entrepreneurship. I really believe in entrepreneurship. I started my first business at 17, and business kind of came out of radio, where I was taking music playlists and playing videos on the internet. So you could click on the DJ's playlist, and then the videos would come up. Cool. Work with some guys out of Stanford, Silicon Graphics. I was one of the first to put music videos on the internet. Yeah. So, and then of course, those ideas get stolen and
there's
the
a thing called
record
MTV.
labels. The record label. But what we do on the Same Business, Different Day podcast is we talk to entrepreneurs about their journey, right? From their early life to where they are now. Because I think everyone can find parallels somewhere in there, whether it's education, a decision to stop going to school, whatever it is, their first jobs, whatever. I like to tell those stories because no matter how successful this entrepreneur is now, there's somebody out there trying to figure out how they can get there. And
if we can start somewhere, right?
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. We all started somewhere. You know, we all want, what did you want to be when you grew up is our first question. And everybody had an idea, but, not everybody followed through with that. But here you are at whatever time you're listening to my podcast with this question of what do I do next? And here you are, get a chance to listen to some guest who's right there where you were.
Yeah.
So I love telling those stories.
And entrepreneurs, I've been around mastermind groups, big mastermind groups, and they were all entrepreneurs. And I realized, I'm sort of a serial entrepreneur. I've had many businesses. And once I get it very successful, now I know to sell it. But before I didn't, I just went on to the next thing. But they don't think inside the box because entrepreneurs, as a rule, there is no box.
Sure.
They have a vision and there's a need or there's a niche that they see that needs to be filled, and they will do anything almost to get there.
Absolutely.
And I love that about them. That's what's exciting about them. If somebody says, I've been sitting behind a desk for the last 40 years, I'm like, okay, well, nice to meet you. But tell me you started your own business, whatever the business is, it fascinates me because it matches, income and the person, 'cause sometimes it's not always profitable. I mean, not all entrepreneurs are successful, but are most of yours successful on your show?
I try to interview the success stories, and talk about where they are now, and then bring them back, and we can talk, a couple of years later. What did you do to elevate your business between then and now, and what's the next 5-year plan? I really do, want that. It's difficult, a lot different if we're just talking about how you failed. No, let's take that back though a little bit, right? You've certainly failed in other endeavors. I'm sure that's why we're telling the whole journey, the whole story.
Right.
You just maybe, now where you are is a success.
In terms of the labor force, the number of entrepreneurs is relatively small compared to the number of people who work in factories and just regular industry and so forth. What kind of qualities do you see in people who become entrepreneurs? What qualities do you think are most important for a person to start their business, have the perseverance to keep doing it, and to be successful?
Thanks for asking. I think that one of the misnomers or one of the keys in terms of talking about entrepreneurship is that even if you're sitting behind a desk for 20, 30 years, working for someone else, there's an entrepreneur's mentality that's very necessary, right? How to go ask for a raise, trying to help your boss elevate this business. So you're trying to be like that boss. You know what I'm saying? Now you are thinking the right way. And I think that those are keys to still being an entrepreneur, even if you're working for somebody else. I think that those are qualities of people who, if you're thinking like a business owner, even if you're working for someone else. There are plenty of entrepreneurs out there that are working within kind of the side, a parallel to some other business. They're just a little smaller, but they'd rather make their own money than help somebody else make theirs.
I knew someone, he started his own consulting firm. He worked for big 8 companies. He was a MIS director. And I said, what do you get a year? What's your salary a year? And he said, I got my salaries about, I don't know what it was back then. This is a long time ago. It was like $125,000. And I said, and you work 80 hours a week, don't you? And he said, yeah. I said, so really you're making half of that.
Sure.
A year, and the lights went on in this guy's eyes. And then I said, and if you build out what your billing is, if you had your own clients, I think you could make that in a couple months, right? If you were busy enough. And he instantly quit his job and opened his own place up. And it was, something already being done. He wasn't reinventing the wheel. But, and I think some businesses are better at those from people who start their own, not always, but start their own because they've lived through corporate America and they know the kind of boss they want to be and they know the kind of profile they want as their business that big companies, will eat them up. They buy them usually. But anyway, okay, well, this is so exciting. So you saw this film hub. You said, okay, that it's calling me.
The
Is
microphone's
it on the
calling me.
phone, on text? How did it do it?
I could just hear whispers down the hallway. I'm like, I'm this close to a microphone. Why am I not on it?
Mm-hmm.
Started my show and had a good couple of seasons, and the quality was good, right?
Yeah.
Production quality was
Yeah.
good, thanks to, people like our friend Mateo here,
Yeah.
who really made sure that we're putting out content that was worthwhile and that could live on, right?
Yeah.
We can still go back to those early seasons and hear good sound
Yeah.
quality, see good video.
Mm-hmm.
And then people started coming to me and saying, I want to do a show too. Can you give me some pointers? I can give you more than pointers. How about you let me produce it? And so next thing you know, it's from one show to we're currently at 13 shows, and got interviewing 4 new potential hosts tomorrow for 4 different shows that they want to
Great.
do. So it just grew from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you do great. We had a get together a few weeks ago
Mhm.
where the podcasters were there, and what a fun group of people.
Absolutely. They
They
say the
were.
same about you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were.
They were. And these guys that do the T-shirts, that do whatever, I can't remember their names.
Machine
anyway.
Print Shop.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're great. Anyway, they were so funny. They're like, wow, you're a pretty cool old lady. I said, I thank you very much. I appreciate that. But anyway, I think it has a lot to do with you, Zeke, and I'm not just blowing smoke, up your whatever. I really think it has a lot to do with you. Integrity, you have a good vision, you're straightforward. These other places I looked at, these people didn't know what they were doing, but you had the experience, and you also have the persona
I appreciate
to be a producer. So I think you're doing a good job here.
I really appreciate that.
And you're serving the community in a way and creating a community, which I love communities. We drive into a lot of people, our cars have never seen the garage because Bob's shop is in the garage. But most people, drive into their garage, close the door. They don't see their neighbors. They don't see anybody. In the old days, people were out on porches. They were walking in the cities. They were walking whatever. And so this is a way to be in a community that I don't think society has a lot of those.
Well, you certainly add a lot to the community, and I have
Thank
to
you.
give you your props. You guys are great show hosts.
Thanks.
I love the way you guys play off of each other, and congratulations on the 24th anniversary. But
Yeah,
it makes
with no
sense.
murders.
It makes complete
They're both
sense.
still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even really honestly, I see the videos when you were in the hospital and the support, Fun
Yeah.
Bobby being there. So I
Fun
love
Bobby.
it. I love the fact that you take that and all those stories and all of that energy and you bring it and put it on a microphone. And again, quality sound that's going to live on forever.
Yeah.
You're getting to tell these amazing stories. I listen to the stories. I love them. So this
I love his
is
Brooklyn
great.
stories.
I'm glad you're doing it.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We're glad to be here. I kind of took him, Bob's was much more comfortable in front of a microphone than I was until I started this. If I could be in radio, I could be behind the scenes, or I worked in movies and I worked behind the scenes. Now I am the scene.
You are.
And it's a whole different experience. And Bob,
Shining.
yeah, well, I'm trying to shine. I'm telling you, I'm trying to put old people in the spotlight, man. I was watching the Golden Globes the other night. I had a friend who was sick in the hospital, and so we watched them together. She loves watching it and talking about the dresses and what everybody was wearing and whatever. And I said, there's a lot of older women there, like Jamie Lee Curtis and whatever, who are knocking it out of the park.
Good.
And a couple of my mentors have been Iris Abfell, who just died last year at 101. And she wore big round glasses like I wear. She used to say, more is more, less is a bore. And she would wear like 25 chains. And on her birthday every year, I dress like her. And everybody uses that picture of me. And that's not normally how I dress,
I know the picture.
And what else? I was just thinking about, Yayoi Kusama. She's a Japanese artist. She lived in America for a while. She puts polka dots on everything. She's still alive. She lives in Japan now. She has an interesting story where she is in a home for people who have mental illness, and she's so successful that they let her out. She has a guy who drives her and takes her to her studio, and she paints for 8 hours a day, every day at 99, I think she is. And then he drives her home at night, and they give her her meds. I mean, she's big, no bones. I'm not telling any stories out of it. This is the story of her, and she says it all the time. She needs help, but she's one of the most successful women artists there is in the world now.
I love it.
And she's cool. But anyway, so.
Well, they made you in the same vein. That's the whole story. That's how that came about. So I love that.
Yeah,
I appreciate
I'm not backing down. I ain't going anywhere, man.
Good.
I'm. My kids are like, when I got a tattoo this year, I thought my son was gonna flip out. It's like, what? And then when I was in the hospital, they'd say, "Oh, did you get a rub-on tattoo? A press-on tattoo?" I go, "No, baby, I got the ink. This is it." They're like, "That's a real tattoo?" I said, "Why is it that bad?" They said, "No, I just don't expect someone my age. It's my only one. I'm not getting any more." So I know lots of people who do that. And someone said, "Why is it so light, or why is it not so flashy?" And I said, "Well, I wanted it for me. It's Bob's dragon on me. I wanted it for me so that I always had him with me."
I love it.
And I didn't need anybody across the room to see it. That wasn't the point of it. So here we are. And Bob has no tattoos. He didn't go run out and get me on anything.
Nope.
Nope, he says. So what is the
We're
future?
trying to see Sting kiss the other hand. We'll see you put a tattoo on that one too.
Okay, well, Sting. Yeah, now I'm not so into Sting anymore. Who am I into? I won't even get into that dirty old lady. What does the future look like? What are you doing next? Are you doing something different, or just more of what you're doing now?
More. I mean, I haven't learned how to say no yet anyway, so why not more,
Okay.
Absolutely, more shows, more content creators. I want to help people get their voices out there. I don't care how many podcasts there are in the world. There's 2.4 million podcasts in the world. Why not more? This is the new era of radio. This is why we call it a different day radio.
Yeah.
And, there are a lot of people with stories to tell. And not everybody's got the patience like you two and sit down and write a book. But some people tell their stories, into a microphone and we can appreciate those stories as well. And a lot of people have personalities. A lot of people, like you say, they get in the radio because they don't feel like either that they have the face for TV or they get nervous in front of a camera or something like that. This is your opportunity to get to talk, express yourself, and put your story out there because you do have an audience. Everybody's got an audience. And, it's not my job to help you find your audience as much as it is to allow you to tell your story. Or maybe you just have a way that you want to communicate, whether it's amongst friends or you want to debate, whatever it is, you can be recorded just like anybody else. And so let's do that. Let's do it with some quality. And, hopefully you can find your audience that's listening to it. So that's next. It's just constantly doing that. Yeah.
Well, you do it well.
I appreciate it.
What are something you're most proud of? I always ask my guests this. What is something you're very proud of? You can say several things if you're several things. And I don't think people are boasting. I think they should be a little more proud of things they do instead of, a lot of people, self-deprecate or whatever. And,
Sure.
and there's lots to be proud of.
Those who know me know I don't talk about family too much, but I'm proud of my kids, of course. My kids are in college now, doing very well. My daughter's up at University of San Francisco. My son should graduate this year from Miracosta. But as the story goes, I'm proud of fighting for the kids, because there was a lot that could have stopped me from being a part of their life, To be a man in this world winning 100% custody of children, especially in California, is very uncommon. So that's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah, I fought that fight too. I fought it for custody. I have a son on the spectrum, and I fought for that custody, and I had to have a custody evaluation where I sat in front of psychiatrists, and I took all the Minnesota multiple and all these tests, and I was laughing in the room because some of the questions are just ridiculous. Like, in your spare time, would you rather read a book, be with friends, or kill the neighbor's dog?
Oh, God.
And then they ask, and I'm like, who checks kill the neighbor's dog? And then 5 questions later, they rearranged the question and said, if you're walking down the street, would you rather be listening to music on your headphones, talking with a friend, or kick a dog? I'm like, what? Who's checking that box? Anyway, so I was laughing like a mad person in this conference room. I was taking all these tests in, which I had administered many years ago to people. So I thought, what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
Well, you should be proud because you're an involved dad and getting full custody. Bob was raising his boys, right, Bob?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did.
So we both did that. And when he adopted my adult son this last year, 2 years ago, I don't cry anymore when I say that, but I used to cry. I could not. I mean, who would even want a woman with a child on the spectrum at 14 years old who was wild? And Bob really was a good dad. Really, I always say he practiced on his first two before mine came along.
It took a lot of practice. Yes, it did.
Anyway, and now he's so far away. That's too bad. But we do. There's FaceTime anyway. So before we leave, say where we find you again.
So Same Business, Different Day podcast. You can find on YouTube. You can find it everywhere, at Same Biz Pod, SAMEBIZPOD, at A Different Day Radio on Instagram as well. And so that's the network where you'll see a lot of the shows getting publicized. I mean, overall, over 500,000 views on YouTube. We've got a large audience size. We've got, almost 250,000 folks on social media throughout all of the shows. More great shows coming, like I was saying. differentdayradio.com as well for the website.
Right. And if they want to reach you, there's also, your office is in the Film Hub in Vista.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, Bobby, fun Bobby.
That's me.
Thank you, Zeke. I really appreciate you. And I appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Zeke.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. All right. So say sayonara.
Sayonara.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Arrivederci, everybody.
Thanks for listening. If you like what you're hearing, please share this with a friend and subscribe where you listen to podcasts. Support our efforts through Patreon at TheKnifeWife, and for all Terzuola goodness, go to Terzuola.net. And remember, if you're not laughing, you're not living. Comments and questions can be made on Instagram at TheKnifeWife Podcast or our Facebook group, The Knifewife Podcast. And if you're a couple who work together and would like to be on our podcast, tell us about yourself with an email at eccentricsuz.com or terzuola.net.